Good evening, everyone. I hope you're doing really well. I hope you have a ton of adventures planned for this week. But for now, I really want to show you how to set up your feeding tube. So this is mine. And let me show you how I hook it up. So these are all of the supplies that I start out with, minus the graph tape, which I'll show you in a bit. And I just kind of lay everything all out so it's nice and organized and it's within reachable distance when I go to connect everything. So the very first thing that I'm gonna do is grab my extension and fill it with lukewarm water underneath the sink. And then I grab my extension and I hook it up to my tubie. And there is a lock on it so that it doesn't fall off, which is really nice. And so now it's connected. I'm going to grab my graph tape. I'm just going to cut a little square. And then usually just tape it around over-ish. And I do have an adhesive allergy, so I try to move the tape around every single time I tape it down. But yeah, it looks like that. And that's the tube. So we're good there. So once that is all set up and done, it is time to put formula into the bag. And I always make sure that the sides of my bag is apart because otherwise you're going to get formula everywhere. So just kind of do this and then you should be good. So now it's time to shake up your formula because it's really important to mix everything before you pour it into the bag. I always take all of the caps off first because it's just easier. I know everyone does it differently, but this is the way that is easiest for me. If you're new to getting a feeding tube, it can be so overwhelming at first, but I promise you, you will find your routine sooner or later. Everyone does it different, so you'll just find what works best for you. And we're gonna go ahead and pour the first one. And I've had to change my formula 3 times so far due to formula intolerance. I was on the Cape Farms for a few years actually, and I loved it until I didn't, and my body started rejecting it for no reason. So I had to change. And it does take a while. Well, it can take a while to change your formula, and it can be quite scary because in the meantime, you're not really getting enough nutrition, and it could be a real struggle. So just know that you're not alone. I've had my feeding tube since 2019. Okay, now that the formula is in the bag, it is time to hook it up to the machine. So let me show you. Oh. Sometimes you have to hold to prime if you're reusing a bag, and that's okay. The hardest part is just holding down the button. So all priming really does is take the air out of the bag and it pulls all of the formula to the end so that it is ready to be hooked up. And you just hit done, and then my rate is 85. I'm gonna push for 90 today. So now we are just gonna press OK, and we have to hook this baby up. So I just unscrew one of these So this one has two. It's a right angle feeding tube extension, and it has two ports because one is for medication or water or fluids, whatever you want to put in there that is feeding tube safe. And then the other one is for your formula hookup. It's very convenient that it has two. So we are good to go. And we're just gonna press start. And we are on the move. I've had my feeding tube since 2019, and since then I've only had one infection, and I was able to heal it myself. And the way I was able to do that was I make sure every single day that my tube is washed with lukewarm water and also soap. And I just kind of let it flow over, especially if I'm in the shower or in the bathtub. I just let the water kind of soak into it. And then whenever I get out of the shower or the bathtub, I make sure it's air dry or I just pat it dry. I never rub it because that can definitely irritate the skin around your tube site. I always make sure that when I drink something, sometimes a little fluid comes out, and that's normal. I always change my pad after I drink coffee because I know it's going to soak through all the way. And another thing that I do is I make sure that the tubey pads are washed after every single use. I never reuse a tubey pad because that can also start irritation and also infections. I make sure that everything is as sterile as possible around the tube site. And last but not least, I drink electrolytes. If you see my channel, you know that I go on a ton of adventures, or at least attempt to go on a ton of adventures. And because of that, I'm sweating a lot. And when I sweat a lot, of course, it's gonna irritate the tube and everything else. And I need to make sure that my body is getting enough electrolytes. And I also do this during my flare-ups for Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, or any flare-up with if I see my tube getting a little red or irritated or anything like that. I make sure to drink more electrolytes. And that kind of helps maintain my body's fluid and mineral balance. It also helps me fight off infections and strengthen my immune system, and it helps support my body's lymphatic function. And I think overall that really helps quite a bit. And I am a brand ambassador for Organica electrolytes. I love them so much. I was using their stuff before I even asked to become a brand ambassador because it does help with having a feeding tube and everything like that as well. So the next video I really want to show you is how to change out your feeding tube. And I know this is going to look different for everyone, just as the how to set up your tube looks different for everyone. So just take everything I say with a grain of salt, find your routine, and go from there. But yeah, I'll see you in a second. Why, hello everyone. I just took a shower. I cleaned my feeding tube site and I put some really comfy clothes on, including stretchy yoga pants. And yeah, we are ready to change out the tube. I do this once every 3 to 4 months, depending on how it looks, how I feel. Anyway, I showed you 2 empty bottles in the video there. And the reason for that is because I cut both of them in half and I put one with lukewarm water and the other one is empty. And I'll show you in a second. So, with the lukewarm water one, I filled a syringe to 5 milliliters, and this syringe will come with your Mini One button feeding tube kit. I had already gelled up the new tube, so it looks like this. Your feeding tube kit also comes with the lubrication jelly, which is super helpful, and we're gonna make sure that it works before we place it. That way we know. What we're gonna do is just put the syringe in the new tube and that's perfect. That's exactly what we want to see. There is no leakage whatsoever, and we know that it's safe to place. So we're gonna take the water back out and I'm just gonna place it down beside me. I'm gonna take this syringe, I'm just gonna put it in this lukewarm water cup. Now we can put this syringe and put it in the half without water. What I also did beforehand was I placed Comoseptine on a Q-tip. So it's all nice and ready to go. And yeah, it just makes the process go smoother. Whatever I can do in advance, I do in advance. I took out a 4x4 drainage sponge and I just placed a Q-tip on the sponge. And everything is right beside me within reachable distance, and it just makes it easier and it makes it more organized as you go. I also wanted to show you my feeding tube pads that I use. This one is by Hannah from Under Fluffkins. She is amazing. She's located in Edmonton and is Canadian, and she makes these lovely feeding tube pads that she sends me. I'm very lucky. But yeah, before I start rambling, I am going to hand the camera over to my husband and we'll go from there. Okay, so I just laid down and I'm ready to change my tube. So I'm just gonna go ahead and let my husband hold the phone and we will go from there. So we're gonna go ahead and take this syringe. It's nice and empty, and we're just gonna put it in the old tube like so. And we are going to try and get all of the water out from the old tube. So what do we got here? We got 3.5 milliliters, and we're just gonna go ahead and pour it into this water bottle that is empty. And because I put 5 milliliters in it before, I'm going to pull back a few times and see if I can get all 5 milliliters out. Sometimes it leaks inside, which is totally normal. It's very rare that I get all 5 milliliters out. And that's just a drop. It looks like we have completely emptied this old tube. So it should be ready to take out. I always make sure I have a cloth on the side here, just in case it leaks out, it goes into the cloth. And this is the part that can be a bit sore and painful. And if it is, don't worry, that's pretty normal. So that time was quite painful and I did cry a little bit, but it's okay because we got the new tube in and I didn't use the guide. Normally I do, but I kind of freaked out a little bit. But yeah, what's important is we got it in and I'm going to show you how to place it properly. So if you want to just bring the camera down, like perfect. And so now we're going to take this syringe and we're going to fill it to 5 milliliters. And now that it is filled with 5 milliliters, we are going to place it in the new tube now that we know that it works. And we are just going to anchor it on the inside. And it's officially placed. And the reason why I use the graph tape is because if I pull on this, it doesn't pull on the tube itself, because I've done that before and that hurts quite a bit. So I always make sure that I tape it down. Some people use the grip lock systems as well, but I don't like those as much. I kind of have the adhesive allergy and they just irritate my skin a lot more. So I just use the graph tape, or Tegaderm also works quite well. With that said, you guys, I hope you have a ton of adventures planned, and I hope that you always remember that you are indeed incurably awesome. I'll catch you later. Bye!